let me get started with the how I use this in my research. Because at least at Vanderbilt and most research universities that matters, you know, like how does this play into both classroom and research. So this is a project that I'm working on with a colleague from another university, and it's on digital storytelling and medieval textual transmission. And what we were trying to do with this is, so she's Arabic studies and French, and I do the computer stuff. But not related to that, I will say here, let's go on and talk about a little bit about the global Middle Ages. We're trying to get people to understand that there's a sense of a bigger world out there, that there's cultural interaction and exchange. And this does get to digital storytelling. Why do we want to do this? We want to combat white nationalism. It's a big agenda, but medievalism is, at least lately, medieval studies have been very entwined with some issues concerning white nationalism. This is the New Zealand shooter's gun, and it's got Charles Martel, and it's got, you know, Gaston le Quatre de Béarn, and all these different medieval knights. And this has been a problem for a while, this use of medieval iconography by white nationalists. And so my friend Sahar and I would like to do something about that, and we are encouraging projects from all over the world that are thinking about ways of making people understand the Middle Ages in a more immersive way, i.e. digital storytelling. So what are some of the ways of doing it? Now this is a website, this is a 3D models and mapping, so these are some projects that are involved in this. We think that literature is extremely important in this area. We know that it has been, Islamic culture has been recognized as important for the Middle Ages in arts and science and in sciences, but less so in literature and humanities. So what we want to look at is how were stories told, how were they changed to fit audiences, how are they multicultural, and in what ways can we say that instead of the Middle Ages as this white nationalist thing, it was really more of a time, not just a time of multiculturalism, but of cultural interaction. So what did that mean? So we took a couple of stories and looked at the ways, again, I'm just going to go really quickly through this. This is a story from the 1001 Nights. We wanted to see how this story was told and retold to make it to the West. So i.e. showing influence of Arabic literature in the West. And we picked that one, but it's very much like these stories. And this does become important because this is what my student project and different things to work on this. So these ended up this way. So we think, this is our thesis, is that the story started out as it was in the 1001 Nights. It was morphed as people told it and ended up slightly differently. And the reason we picked this particular story is because there's this transformation that happens that's very different, okay? So I'll just leave it at that. We talk about learning through play, and we talk about working with new audiences, and we've used 3D modeling, and that is a different area of this. So this is the area that I'm focusing on, is more immersive storytelling, digital storytelling. What we're going to talk about now here is Twine. And the reason we got into Twine was because this was really hard. And it was particularly hard for my friend who is not computer savvy at all. So she really wanted to do something. And in fact, hers has turned out great. So I got her started. I was like, hey, there's this thing, Twine. Here's some tutorials. Figure it out. And she did. And this was what was so great about it, was that's when I realized that it was really powerful, because you can do this with very little training. So what she did was she went to twinery.org. This is talking about the thing itself, which Sarah is going to go into again, so I won't go into real detail here, but it's just a system for telling interactive stories. It can be gamified, it doesn't have to be, and it's a very low barrier for production and entry, and it's free. So all of those things made it kind of perfect for us and for the classroom. So she started working on it, and this is what the layout looks like when you're working. So she's telling this branching story of what happens in the 1001 Nights, and how if you get to a particular point, you could make a small choice and it would send you in a different direction, and ultimately you'll end up with a Huon de Bordeaux, which is a French version. That's what, so we're kind of bringing people, leading people down that path of seeing how a very small difference in storytelling could result in textual transmission through different cultures. So that's what she did. And pros and cons, I'll just tell you this for us, very easy to use, doesn't require any assistance, that is actually true. Adventure stories are familiar and appealing, so people like them. It is hard to work in a group, and that's going to be kind of part of what your issue may be. Immersive qualities are lacking. I still like the 3D stuff a little better. And you do need a little programming for more advanced elements. You can cut and paste, so it's not, don't be scared by that, but so this is the one that we did. You start, it actually exists. You click here and you start it, and you move along. And it looks like this as you go. So we've got some images, you can embed images, you can change the fonts, you can do these things. We'll talk about that more. So I'm not going into that. But I do want to talk about what I do with my class. So after that, I thought to myself, this is really fun, and it's a low barrier of entry, as I discussed before. So how could we possibly do this with students? So I did a class last semester on medieval media. We're just going to call it that. So media, medievalisms, I think was the actual name. So we looked at video games, we looked at film, we looked at any kind of media, as well as medieval stories. And I gave students a project, which I'm going to show you right here. This is their final project. They did a midterm project, which was a Twine story, and I'll show you some stuff from that. But I just asked them to take something that was in a different media, to remediate it, and to put it into some other things. So they could have, we looked at board games, video games, interactive digital stories, fictional stories, movies. We looked at all sorts of stuff. So I left it to them to decide what they really wanted to do. So I told them they could expand on their Lancelot Percival Twine story, but it needed to be much more than what it was, so show about 10 hours. Every student except for one expanded their Twine story. They just really got into it, they loved it, and then they put all these extra things in it, like music and whatnot. So, despite the fact that I encouraged them to do all sorts of things, they really did stick with this. And so there's something extra compelling about Twine for undergraduate students. And the reason I think it works really well in class, in a second language class, is that you can have the students actually do it all in the second language. So they're getting that writing skill that you want them to have, but instead of writing an essay on something they don't care about, they're telling a story that they do care about. And they're giving it choices, and they're doing this sort of thing. So I think it was really super effective. And I just wanted to show you a couple of the ones that they did. And I can find it. So basically that's the Twine, that's what it looks like. And then, I have it pulled up. Oh, I know what I did with it. Okay. What I had them do as their assignment was, if they were going to do that digital story, they had to write something about it in the first place. So let me, this talks about the goal of her project. Sorry, I really am not supposed to put student. Sorry. She's an awesome student. She did a great job. So she talked about the reason that she did what she did, and I think that's an important thing. If you're giving the assignment and telling students, okay, I'd like you to write a Twine, or they pick to do a Twine story, they're going to have to explain to you why they did what they did, or it's not going to make sense. That's true for most creative projects. I don't know if you've tried them in the classroom, but you really need an extra sheet of paper that says what they're attempting to do, because sometimes what they actually do does not achieve what they were setting out to do. So this helps you understand it. And she's explaining why it is that she did this particular project. She picked 3 women in the Lancelot story and basically told the story from their point of view. So she's retelling the story of Lancelot. And then, let me just show you how it worked on hers in particular. Okay. So just to explain a little bit, these are, as you can see up here, this is an actual file that's an HTML file at the end. So they can email you this. It's compact enough, even with all the stuff added in, that they can email you this and you can check it out, and in that way through a web browser. Ideally, they would put it up online and other people could see it. Now that's up to you, your students, your class, but that's a different issue. As it is, it's a web page, but it's local to my computer. So she talks here about reading Chrétien de Troyes, and you at each point you pick something, and down here you have to pick who you're going to be. So choisir une femme. So we're going to Griselle, why not? Vous êtes Griselle, and you read about being her, and what would it be like to be her, this one woman from the story. And then she follows along. And you know, each time you pick something, the story changes. It's a choose your own adventure of the same kind that you may have done before. This is a lot of writing for an undergraduate student writing in a foreign language. This student is a very strong student, and it's well written. But for other students, it may be really hard for them to do this much. But that's good, and they're motivated. You're going to see right here, but I'll show you real quick how. If you download it, then you'll get a little dashboard that looks like this with your stories, and over here you can change the language, and then you can pick. And the good thing about doing that, yeah, there's most of the language that we teach. The good thing about doing that is it gives them the vocabulary that they can use that's computer related, which is hard to make that translation. So it's possible that you could teach it and stay in the language. So I had a few, in our story we have, in the style sheet, we have the font family, and you can pick from various fonts to put there and make things bold and the color and all that, which she's talking about. We had a hover, stuff that would happen on hover, and that's, see how these are for links, Twine links, Twine story, so you can have different, you can do it differently for different parts. But I really, really wanted to point out this, and that is, the weird thing about this is you're developing this on your own computer, and it feels great, and then you send it to somebody and it doesn't work, and you don't understand why. And part of it is that these links that you're doing, these images and things, they have to be to a publicly accessible file online. So that was true for our images, and it was also true for music. We have some music in here, or we did. What did I do with my music? Oh, it made the end of the JavaScript. But right here, so the way I worked around this, and this might work for you, my.vanderbilt.edu will not let you put up an HTML file, which sucks.
Oh.
No, it's really bad.
Oh.
So it will not let you do that, but it will let you put up any kind of media. So you can put up these JPEGs, you can put up music clips, you can put up video clips, you can put up that stuff. And when you go there, as you put it up, if you've ever done it, I think most all of you have made your my.vanderbilt.edu pages. When say you put your picture up there, you can see on the side what the actual address of that picture is. It says, so you just cut and paste that picture, that URL, into this, and then it's got a place to point to. So that's online. Does that make sense? Why it doesn't work? Otherwise, you're pointing to an image on your personal computer and people can't get to it. And let me see if I do have a little bit about the music, because the music was fun, I'm gonna say. But I might have put that in the Java. That might have been a JavaScript thing. Yeah, this is the stuff for the audio. It works off and on, sadly. I did upload the MP3 to my.vanderbilt.edu storage, and all you have to do is just, when in the story, you put that, when your story is open in a web browser. I didn't write this in, this is how it always is. It immediately starts when your story is open, so the music should play. So we can test that, and like I said, half the time it does not work. So this is the story. This is a huge story. She got really carried away.
Wow.
It was so funny to watch someone get so excited about it. That's the thing I love. But see, I don't hear anything, and I don't know if it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. But it's something she actually got. She got so into it. She got her nephew to record authentic Arabic music, so it was cool. But you can follow through and see different things. It still needs a lot of work. There's various parts to the story. And every once in a while you'll come in. It ended up being almost like a, and then you can have it generate the story for this, like if they created a story, there it is, you know, that's the story that I created, and that you can print out and keep if